Talk about Ukraine, because there's been a significant development over the weekend. Cormac Smith is former advisor to Pavlo Klimkin when he was Ukraine's Foreign Affairs Minister. Hi, Cormac. Thanks for joining me.
Oh, good evening to you.
So there's been a fire at an oil depot, a major oil depot near Sochi in Russia. Moscow's blaming it on Ukrainian drone strikes. How significant do we think this is that Ukraine is still able to target Russian infrastructure in this way?
Oh, this is hugely significant. It's not just that Ukraine is still able to do this, it's that Ukraine is increasingly doing this. You know, I came on the BBC over 2 years ago when Britain was the first country to provide long-range weapons, i.e. Storm Shadow, to Ukraine. And I was talking about how this would enable the Ukrainians to hit elements of the logistics chain behind the front lines, but of course not inside Russia. Now, we've heard for over a year the arguments as to whether Ukraine could use Western supplied weapons to strike military targets and logistics chain targets inside Russia, and we have so far largely refused. The Ukrainians have been making huge strides in developing their own weapons, not only their own drone systems, but their own cruise missiles, and they are now increasingly striking military targets and elements of the logistics chain. When I say that, this was obviously an oil refinery that was hit. This hits at the heart of Russia's economy. It also hits at the heart of their logistics supply chain to supply fuel to their armies in Ukraine. Hugely significant.
It's still the case, though, isn't it, and correct me if I'm wrong, that Russia has the upper hand in this war and they're the ones who are making advances. Putin feels as if he's in a position of relative strength at the moment.
I would say Putin feels that he is winning this war. My friend Philip Ingram pointed this out yesterday. No, the war is pretty well stalemated. There are gains of, they are literally fighting for gains of hundreds of meters. The front line has hardly changed in 2 years, and the price that Russia is paying is absolutely enormous. The Ukrainians are telling us that, and they have been tracking Russian casualties since the very beginning. Russian casualties have gone significantly over 1 million, with possibly as many as 250,000 killed. Interestingly, in the last year or so, we have seen British intelligence, US intelligence, and other Western sources agree more and more closely. So no, I would say that Russia is definitely not winning. Having said that, this is taking a huge toll on Ukraine, because while Ukraine seeks to strike military and logistics targets, what we see night after night is Russia striking civilian targets. For example, last Thursday's missile attack, which included 8 cruise missiles. These are precision weapons, Paul, that killed over 31 citizens, people in Kyiv. So there's a big, big difference. Russia every day is deliberately attacking civilian targets. Ukraine is deliberately attacking military and logistics targets.
What did you make on Friday of Donald Trump saying he wants to reposition nuclear submarines? It's fascinating, isn't it, how much he's changed his stance on Russia since January when he first became president, or second time he became president, but you know what I mean. He's really come on a journey when it comes to his attitude towards President Putin, it seems.
He has, and, you know, far be it from me to try and read the mind of Donald Trump, but it's very, very clear that Donald Trump is ego-driven. Some would say he is a narcissist, and he very clearly told the world that he would end this war. Initially, he said he would end this war in 24 hours of coming to power, and he made it very, very clear that he believed he had a very good relationship with Vladimir Putin. Now, it has become increasingly obvious that Vladimir Putin does not respect Donald Trump, and he has disrespected him in the most public and humiliating ways on several occasions. And I think I don't know what Donald Trump's motivation is, but certainly this is going to hurt Donald Trump's feelings. So I think he is turning against Vladimir Putin. His current deadline ends on Friday.
Yeah, I was going to say, that's coming round now, isn't it?
What are we to expect? I'm one of these people, along with my friends, because I've been doing interviews, Paul, since middle of January 2022, specifically on this. And I do that because my Ukrainian friends asked me to. And I've been saying, I coined the phrase with Ukrainians, arm Ukraine to the teeth and sanction Russia back to the Stone Age. Mm-hmm. Well, we still haven't done that. We still have, it said, that Joe Biden looked at what Ukraine needed and he gave them half that, and he gave it to them slowly, and he gave it to them with handcuffs on. Sanctions definitely have a long way to go. But, are we finally going to see Ukraine giving every sophisticated Western armament and the ability to use them as they see fit? And are we finally going to see secondary sanctions, sanctioning of Russia's shadow fleet and sanctioning of countries who do business with Russia? We know that the Russian economy is in a perilous state.
But we also see other countries, though, saying that they're going to continue to buy oil from Russia regardless of sanctions.
Yes.
So it's a difficult position. I don't know that we have complete power to decimate Russia's economy in the way that the West might like to do, even if it did go ahead with sanctions.
I'm inclined to agree with you, Paul, because the world seems to be breaking down into. We have what I have long called an axis of evil, which would be Russia, North Korea, Iran, and China. And I've always said that Russia would ultimately be a junior partner to China in that axis. But we then have all the other countries, specifically in the BRICS and the extended BRICS, but other countries in the South who are at best sitting on the fence and show a propensity to fall in on Russia's side. So I think you're right. I'm not sure that we have the absolute power, but I still think that we can go a lot further with sanctions, and I still think that we can go a lot further with arming Ukraine. Now, certainly Europe has stepped up since Donald Trump came in, and if that is one of probably, from my point and Ukraine's point of view, one of the positives of Donald Trump he has made, because certain European countries were not paying their part. So Europe has stepped up. But also what's very, very significant is Ukraine has stepped up themselves in developing their own armaments industry, developing their drones and developing their own long-range cruise missiles. And this is something that's very often missed. I believe, to give you very rough figures, America was providing over 40% of the armaments to Ukraine. Europe was possibly providing 20 to 30%, and Ukraine was providing 20 to 30% themselves. Ukraine has probably exceeded 40% through their own production, and that's rising all the time. And we have a number of European countries now investing in Ukraine's defense industry. So it's not all doom and gloom, but Ukraine is suffering horribly, and they're losing some of their best people every day. And unlike Russia, they care. Putin clearly has proven to the world he has no compunction with feeding, tens of thousands of his own people into a meat grinder, as he has been doing for the last 3.5 years.
Well, it's going to be a key week, isn't it, coming up, Cormac? Because
really
things will move quickly, I'd imagine, in the next few days. And Donald Trump, if he's run out of patience, then Friday really will be sort of the high point of all of this, the big showdown. And let's see what happens. It's going to be fascinating and also very concerning, particularly for people in Ukraine. Thank you so much for your time this evening. That was Cormac Smith there, former Strategic Communications Advisor to Ukraine's Foreign Affairs Minister, talking about that situation in Sochi, where an oil rig has been hit, an oil depot, causing a massive fire. It's fascinating, isn't it, how Ukraine is still damaging this infrastructure, and like Cormac said, with increasing frequency and efficiency.